Hi everyone, I'm Betsy from Agility with Sound. Welcome to this third video in the series about the science of reading. This one is about the spelling system and how it works. Well, mostly works. Now, every word in English is spelt the way it is for a reason, and that reason is to make extracting meaning from text as direct and straightforward as possible. Perhaps it should be called a reading system because that is how it was designed, and it was designed. Now, English is a huge language with well over 1 million words from multiple parent languages. All this with a hopelessly inadequate alphabet of just 26 letters to represent the 46 more or less sounds of speech, and even then C, K, Q, and X all make the K sound. Z is most commonly spelt with an S, as in his and advise, making Z largely redundant. This means that at least half the sounds are missing from the alphabet, and these missing letters must be made up with two or more letters in combination, and most letters serve multiple purposes. Letters we think of as vowels must work as consonants, such as U making the W sound in quick, penguin and persuade, and I making the Y sound in opinion and million. E at the end of the word has about 11 different functions, often as part of a consonant team, as in the LE of little, the VE of massive, or the SE of house. The consonant letters W, Y, L, least in the New Zealand accent, G and H and R get roped in to help out with the missing vowels. To complicate things even further, the original English language has absorbed words from Old French and Modern French, from Latin, Greek, and a myriad of other languages, and each of these languages makes up for the shortage of letters in its own way. The spelling conventions are different for each. So English is best thought of as a super language, embracing a series of component languages that work and are spelt differently. For example, there are 12 ways to spell the sh sound. The original English, Old English language has sh, as in shop. Latin has a number of ways. Ti in patient, ci in special, si in freesia or amnesia, ssi in mission, xi in anxious, sci in conscious, and then French has ch as in machine or che as in crèche. The sch of schedule is German. Then we have words like sugar and sure and usual with su making the sh sound and ce making the sh sound in ocean and herbaceous. I once counted the A's in the first 300 words. There are 95, but just 17 of them make the A sound of cat. Some are digraphs, but the single letter A has multiple functions. All of these are from those early words. It's A is making a and, e and any, I and important, o and was, a and about, a and table, or and for, and are and ask. 8 pronunciations, some of them more common than others. So A does not belong to the A of cat, one correct and the rest somehow exceptional or wrong. It is a multi-purpose letter, as all vowels and most consonants are. And it must work for multiple accents. I can read what a Louisiana writer wrote as dog, and here it is dog. I read about classrooms in Australia saying six is a 36, and I know they're reciting their tables. I can read a Scottish novel with ease, hearing the words in my head in my own accent. For all its inconsistencies, what an amazing system we have. It is entirely possible for us to learn to spell all the words we are likely to use correctly with very little conscious effort. So the story of spelling had its modern beginnings after the invention of the printing press over 500 years ago. At the time, English had a great many diverse regional accents, as it still does, of course, and spelling and handwritten texts usually reflected this. But printing in bulk meant standardization, one spelling for all accents, one spelling for all readers. But whose accent? One Southern England dialect was chosen, the one used by the king, and that accent of over 500 years ago is the basis of how our most common words are spelt today for all English accents worldwide. So spelling 500 years ago was highly phonetic, at least for the chosen accent, with very few words that would be called exception words today. Said was pronounced said and spelt accordingly. One was pronounced own, like alone and only, until the early 1800s. But pronunciation of speech is a living, dynamic, and evolving thing. Shortly after this basic standardization of spelling was established, and at the worst possible time for our spelling, the pronunciation of words began to change dramatically, most probably as a result of increasing urbanization from different regions of the country, resulting in different accents colliding. This shift most especially affected the long vowel sounds, so it became known as the Great Vowel Shift. Then it went on for a couple of centuries. The E of neeked and reeked became I, night and right. The U of hoose transformed into the ow of house. Sometimes all words with a given sound changed together, so that all IGH words shifted from E to I, neat to night, but often a vowel sound fractured into several possible pronunciations. English of the time had a long air sound, ready, steady. Some words with this long air barely changed, like bread, treasure, dreadful. Many others shifted first to an A sound and then to E. Teachers stopped teaching and became teachers who teach, and finally teachers who teach. Great stopped at the A sound. This left us with many homophones, meet and meet, once meet and met, see and see, beach and beach, once beach and beach, and so on. Retaining the different spellings for homophonic pairs may make spelling more complex, but it keeps the meaning clear for our readers. I instantly know that if I read about climbing up the beach, whether I am climbing up a sand dune or a tree. At the same time, changes occurred in many consonants. The eth suffix changed to s. Giveth became givus and then gives. Doeth became dous, where the spelling froze, and eventually does. The T in castle, listen, and often disappeared, but it seems to be on its way back into often. Speech at the time had sounds we have since lost, especially the guttural GH sound, a sound I can't actually make, but a bit like kh. So how was thought pronounced? OU making the oo sound, then that guttural sound, then a t, th, ookt, ook. We have also lost WH, pronounced with a blow at the start and originally spelt HW, but distinctly different from W. W and wh, w in want and went, wh and what and when. The initial blends KN and WR were reduced to N and R from KN to N and were R to R. It had long and short consonants and long and short vowels, which I talked about in the last video. So this video, it's a fascinating video. In it, you will hear the pronunciation of words and how they have changed in 50-year increments from about the 1300s until now. I've picked out a few that I thought were interesting. I heard at 2 minutes 38, I heard sooth. I heard hoos at 2:45. I heard neekt at 5:04. I heard confusion and decorations and great and wesel and livid and baked and own and wheel and when. Pronunciation continues to change, while spelling has, by comparison, had only minor tweaks. The neat link between transcription and pronunciation of 500 years ago is now almost unrecognizable for many old but still common words. Perhaps it is more useful to think of pronunciation rather than spelling being the exception part of exception words. That's what this process has left it. But it was not only printers, and very often their apprentices, who may not have been English speakers, deciding how words should be spelt. Scholars who studied Latin and Greek and the origin of English words were recruited and also played a part. These scholars determined that spelling should reflect the language of origin. Words derived from Latin should be spelt using Latin conventions. Greek should be faithful to Greek spelling, and so on. Words with a common origin should be spelt accordingly. This all meant that spelling was no longer simply a transcription of sounds, but now also embraced meaning. Spelling became more complex, but on the other hand, this added complexity makes gaining meaning when reading from text very much more straightforward. Let's look at these words. The common sound in know and knowledge is n. In know, OW is pronounced O, but in knowledge, it's an O sound. But I can see the link in meaning in that common spelling of KNOW. Muscle might be a difficult spelling to get your head around, but see how it links to muscular. South, and in southern, the ow turns to an ah, but the spelling stays the same. Then we have 12, 20, twin, twice, all with a thread of two-ness. Why would two be different? And then that silent N on the end of autumn. You can see why it's there when you look at autumnal. Provide and providence have completely different vowel sounds, but the spelling gives the link. CENT means cent. CENT in cent means 100, like centennial or centipede. CENTR means something else. It means towards the middle. So we get central, concentric, centrifugal, and so on. C-E-N-T-R, towards the middle. Why would center be different? Sorry, America, I think you've got it wrong. Business was once spelt B-U-S-Y-N-E-S, to be busy, but then the Y was replaced with I, as has happened in most words from this strand of the language. And then that sound got dropped from the pronunciation. Its opposite, the word busyless, meaning idle or unemployed, has disappeared from the language, unfortunately. Then you can see it in music, a musician, C-I-A-N, meaning an occupation like electrician, dietitian, mathematician, and so on. This C-I-A-N might sound the same as shun, S-H-U-N, and shun, T-I-O-N, but they all mean something different. CYCL, meaning revolving or round, is an encyclone. It's even an encyclopedia, meaning all-round knowledge. And cyclostyle, a word those of us who taught decades ago used every day. SICL makes the same sounds, but it is devoid of meaning. The or suffix has a meaning, a thing or person that does something. Professors profess, radiators radiate, generators generate. And this holds true for most, not all, but most multisyllabic words. This unit of meaning was masked for Americans when they decided to drop the U in words like colour and glamour, muddying the meaning of this suffix. But then some over-enthusiastic, know-it-all, show-off scholars took this to extremes, adding a B to debt to link it to debit, thus making a mockery of the pronunciation, and a P into receipt to link it to the Latin word recipere, even though that word in speech never had a P sound. Some of these were just simply mistakes. Ireland is not related to insulaire, and therefore requiring an S, as someone assumed. Mistakes still happen. Google, spelt Googol, is a very large number, 10 with 100 noughts, and was chosen quite recently by some clever but possibly dyslexic tech guys to represent an almost infinite amount of information. But when they registered their name, they misspelt it, and we finished up with Google, losing that strong connection to the meaning that they intended to suggest. But it is more than different spellings of the sounds relating to different strands of the language. How those sounds go together, the patterns of each strand, how these words work are different. In the last video, I used examples from the Latin strand of the language. So in this one, I will talk about words from other strands. For example, crotchet. It's a musical term from the Middle English strand of the language. In this strand, TCH and CH both make ch, as in match, march, same ch sound, crutch, couch, same ch sound. Do we really need that T? Let's take it out. But in doing this, we have changed the whole word. It is now a pattern from the French strain of the language. ET has become A, like ballet and ricochet and cachet. CH has become the French sh, and even the O changes from O to O. And the stress pattern changes as well. We see the same patterns in these words. Sachet, without a T, satchel, with a T, cachet versus hatchet. I may not know what this word is, this one here, but I know how it must be pronounced. It would be a very different word if it had a T in here. There are no words from the English strand with a short vowel and then CHET, like these words. They are all pronounced in the French way. Our pattern-seeking brains figure this out, even if we are not conscious of it. No words from the Middle English strand of the language end in CHE, but some Greek words like ache and many French words do. So we get attach, add an E, and it becomes French, attaché, turning that CH into an sh sound. Touch turns into touché. The OU changes to the French oo, and the CH changes into the sh. So we have all these words, all of them French. Niche, with an I making an E sound. Quiche, pastiche, crèche, flèche, all with a sh. And look at these words. The OU is always going to make the French oo sound. Souffle, group. And then look at these ones. Oo with an INE. And when that goes with an INE, look what happens. These words have a French structure, and the INE is pronounced in the French way like in, like machine. Another word from the French strand of the language. That last word I may never have seen before, but because that pattern is locked in my head, I know how to pronounce it. So words from modern French work altogether differently from the English strand of the language. As soon as I see CHL or CHR, I know it's going to be cl or cr, never ch. These are all words from the Greek strand. I will not be surprised to see PH or EU or Ys in unlikely places. I will expect to see YLL or YL making the sound that LE does in words from Middle English, or that AL does from the Latin strand in words like educational. These spelling patterns are specific to one particular strand of the language. It is how these sounds go together, how the word is put together as a whole, the patterns that are the primary indicator of how these words are pronounced. They also embraced meaning. I may never have heard of psychoneurotic, but I can surmise its meaning because I know what psycho means and what neurotic means. If I was to spell it in the way that Old English words are spelt, like that, that gives me no clue to its meaning. These two words are made up, but they demonstrate this. They have the same letters, the same sounds, E, E, N, N, D, D, O, O, F sound, all sound, all sound. One is a spelling from the original English strand of the language, and the second one is from the Greek strand. They have a different stress pattern in dophil, with the stress on the O, and endophil, with the stress spread evenly across the word. That O has a different pronunciation. O in endophil, O in endophil. They even have a different meaning. The en prefix here means to cause, this one means to cause or make happen, like enable, enrich, enlarge, or possibly include, like encase or encircle. While this one, endo, has endo, meaning within, endoskeleton versus exoskeleton. All this pronunciation, stress pattern, and meaning is embedded in the spelling pattern. And I see this even though these are not real words. Some spelling patterns predate the printing press. In the script favoured by the scribes of the time, the letters U, V, M, N, I look so similar that actually reading the text became very difficult. When I look at this word, is that I-M or is it U-N? And what is this down here? My handwriting can have this issue as well. The solution was to use O to make the sound in words like money, love, cometh, company, and so on, thus separating those problematical letters. Not all words with N, U, and M in sequence are like this. Number, for instance. So it is not a rule, but large numbers of common words have this pattern. Woman is often held up as a truly exceptional word, a truly weird one. There are two ways to make the oo or sound. The double O of good and look, or the U of port and push. Double O could be mistaken for woo man, a person whose function is to woo a man. That would never do. WUM has too many up and down letters in succession, so the U is substituted with an O. It is the best option we have. The at the end of a word was also problematical. What is that letter exactly? So an E was tagged on to make it clear. These conventions persisted with the printing press, as of course they still do. The confusion that could arise when readers encountered words with the same pronunciation but a different meaning was dealt with by allocating different spellings, like way and way, and the four spellings of poor, 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 poor. This makes extracting meaning from text simpler for readers, but of course adds complexity for spellings. But then the designers of the whole system were more concerned about readers than writers. Words made up of a single vowel were distinguished from the vowel sound by adding an E. So we get or, o, u, and e, now pronounced I. So to summarize, English is made up of multiple component strands of language that work and are spelt differently. The goal of the designers of the spelling system was to make reading for meaning easy, not to make spelling consistent. The spelling of many words and parts of words are about meaning as much as they are about component sounds, so that spelling often gives ready access to meaning of both familiar and new words. And the spelling of a great many of our most common words is based on an accent that has long been extinct. However, the spelling system must work for a wide range of accents and changes in pronunciation. So we have a multifaceted language with multiple dialects and accents. The way words are pronounced has evolved in an organic, haphazard way, differently in different parts of the world, and continues to change, while by comparison, the spelling of those words has had just minor tweaks over the centuries. Patterns abound. Patterns that work in this strand but not in that one. Patterns that include some words but not others. Establishing rules that work across the whole language is fraught. So what does this mean for exception words? Most words that we think of exceptions to the code are the most common, ancient words caught up in the great vowel shift. But spelling is no longer tied directly to pronunciation, let alone one specific accent. Are we to treat all words whose pronunciation and spelling do not really correlate as oddities? Is ready with an EA, the original pronunciation, an exception word because EA is now more commonly represents the E sound? Or is teach the one that is wrong? What about was, want, what, squash, wander, wash, and so on? Many, many words with A following a W sound, often making an O sound. It's a common pattern. Are these to be all treated as exception words? Has root become an exception word now that it is suddenly pronounced route? An original English pronunciation with a decidedly French spelling. If a child or a class full of children say everything, does that make everything an exception word? We cannot hold back the tide of these changes in usage and pronunciation. So where does that leave us? Is there a code? Well, yes, there is. But perhaps it is more useful to think of multiple codes. Are there rules? Yes, some. But rules that apply in one strand of the language may not, and probably will not, apply in another. Patterns abound within each strand. Our brains are pattern-seeking machines. Perhaps it is best to let the brain do what it does so well. Jennifer Buckingham, a researcher from Australia, talks about this a lot. But two principles matter, and matter a lot. As I tried to show in the first video, our brains process all words in the same way. This letter sequence relates to this pronunciation, my pronunciation of the word. It is as simple and straightforward as that. And learning to read and spell is about learning to make the link between letter sequence, whatever it is, and pronunciation. Let's not make it complicated. Our brains do not distinguish between weird spellings and wonderful spellings. Words in print are what they are. And secondly, if kids are to figure out new words in the process of reading, and we know that overwhelmingly most new vocabulary develops this way, they must expect words to make sense. They must expect them to be workoutable. I worry that an overemphasis on exceptions and rules that sometimes apply and sometimes do not will destroy this expectation for our students, leaving them with, I don't know that word, so I'll just skip it. Because spelling of English may be complex, but then the spoken language it represents is huge and complicated with multiple strands. It's variable and it's evolving. Given all that it is up against, our spelling system works amazingly well.